Why was I born?
Why do some people never smile?
Will our world ever be green?
Are dragons and fairies real?
Why is there so much war?
Why does the universe exist?
How come my friends act like they're not my friends sometimes?
What will I be when I grow up?
Why do bullies have to exist?
Do people really like me?
Why are people biased and racist?
Why did God create us? Why do you only have one lifetime? Who am I?
Just out of curiosity, how many of you still wonder why some people never smile? How many of you still question why the universe exists? And most importantly, how many of you still find yourself asking whether dragons and fairies are real? That's what I thought. Humbling, isn't it? To know that you've lived as long as you have and you still don't have all the answers. Well, neither do I. And contrary to the fact that I'm on this stage now, I'm not about to answer any of those questions. In fact, a major part of the mystery questions exercise is to not answer the questions at all, but simply acknowledge that we all have them, no matter where we come from, where we've been, or even how old we are. We have questions. Questions about ourselves, our world, and the people we share this world with. Now, in case you were wondering, the questions you just heard were generated by 10 and 11-year-olds, participating in the Making Healthy Transitions to Middle School curriculum developed by the PassageWorks Institute of Boulder, Colorado. Now, for those teachers in the audience, let me reassure you, I did not begin teaching by engaging my students in such questions. In fact, I started out like every new teacher, believing that I had to have all of the answers, or do my best to avoid the subject matter completely. I'm sure you can imagine that didn't last long. In fact, I was in my first year teaching in Compton, California, as part of the Teach for America Corps. My placement site looked more like a warehouse than a place of learning. The ceilings were incredibly high. There were thick iron bars on all of the windows. And in my particular classroom, there was a bullet hole in the upper left-hand corner of the last window, which never did get repaired the entire time I was there. I also had been given 6 textbooks. 6 textbooks for my 36 students, which it turned out didn't really matter because I only had 5 students who could read them. So needless to say, I did a lot of reading to my students. And on this one particular day, I was reading a book from Scholastic called If You Lived at the Time of Martin Luther King, Jr. And I had just turned to the chapter on segregation when the following illustrated picture of this real-life photograph appeared. No sooner had I turned that page than my very opinionated, very outspoken Mauricio pointed to the picture, pointed to the hallway, declaring, "That drinking fountain looks just like the one we have." And you know what? He was right. Our drinking fountain looked exactly like the colored drinking fountain in this photograph. The only difference was about a handful of gum wads and about 45 years. For the first time in my teaching career, I was rendered speechless. I didn't know what to say, because I knew that if I validated for him the deep, profound connection he was making, I risked exposing to him all of the other inadequacies in that building. The fact that we had a library full of books, none of which could be checked out by children. Desks so far beyond repair, not even a coat of paint could salvage them. Trust me, I tried. And books, textbooks so old, there wasn't even a space left for a child to sign their name on the inside cover. And I think what I was afraid of the most is that Mauricio would somehow internalize that learning environment and believe that it was a reflection of his own self-worth and value, when all I wanted for him was the opportunity to imagine a future beyond that learning environment, beyond the iron bars and the bullet-riddled glass. I learned 2 very important lessons from Mauricio that day that I will never forget. First, I learned that our young people are far more conscious and aware than we give them credit for, especially on issues of social justice. The second thing I learned from Mauricio was what it means to really teach. There are going to be times when I won't have the answer, and that's okay. What matters is me staying present in the moment to help them form their questions and draw those deep connections. As much as I would like to go back to that time, knowing what I know now, and have another conversation with Mauricio, I can't. But what I can do, and what I did in the spirit of TEDx, was take that same photograph into my classroom today and see what my current 4th graders had to say about it. Now, I just wanted first impressions. I didn't give them any background knowledge or any prior learning. I just wanted to see their first impressions using a process called See, Think, Wonder, developed by the Project Zero folks at Harvard University. And this is what they came up with.
I see 2 water fountains.
I see a sign that says white. I see a sign that says colored.
I see that the white one looks nicer than the colored one.
I see a pipe coming from that nicer water fountain to that dirty old water fountain.
I wonder why they need 2 different water fountains if they can't just have one.
He feels sad because he has to follow around unfair rules.
Think that the water that the white people drink and that they waste and stuff, it goes down the drain and goes through the pipe and it goes into the colored people's water.
I wonder how much it changed people's lives. That just doesn't seem right.
So as you can see, our young people have a lot to say, even on a subject they don't know much about, if we just invite them into the conversation. One of my favorite comments actually is in there where little Natalie says, "I wonder why there have to be 2 drinking fountains." Right? It's a little refreshing. We have these generations that can't even conceive of why there would need to be separate facilities. So we're doing something right. Next, I'm going to show you a clip of when I brought all of my students together so that they could hear from one another what they'd come up with. I also wanted to see where we could go a little deeper into the conversation. Now, as you watch this next clip, I want you to notice the boy who has a lot to say and actually speaks most of the time, but I just want you to notice how he speaks. Let's watch. What could or would you want to do about it? Sheila?
Maybe speak up.
Speak up.
Yeah, I was going to say raise awareness about it.
Raise awareness. How do you think speaking up, why do you think that would make a difference?
Because what it seems like from that picture, it seems that the white people don't know that just because the colored people are just because they have a different skin color doesn't mean that the white people have more power.
And do you think all of the white people feel like they have more power? Do you think they all were agreeing to this?
No, because some people might feel sad for the colored people, but they can't do anything about it because of just the law. If that law was still going on, then we would be separated in different classrooms. Like if Jonah was my best friend, then I wouldn't get to see him every day. So.
And how would you feel about that, Keela, if you could hang out with Jonah?
I'd feel really sad.
Did you notice his level of confidence? Even when sharing vulnerability, his feelings of not being able to go and be in a classroom with his best friend. When we engage students in conversations that matter, we endow them with the confidence and critical thinking skills they're going to need to solve all the problems we've been hearing about today. Our students today need to know who they are and what they believe in. And they need to be able to communicate this in a way that's respectful to other people's viewpoints. when we invite students into this conversation, we're inviting them to make passionate, meaningful connections to their own learning. I'm going to end with this invitation to you now. As we were filming, I got a chance to meet with some of my 5th graders. And they shared with me 2 main reasons why they don't talk about their mystery questions with their parents. And they said that one reason was they just felt like their parents didn't have time to hear their questions. And the second reason, they were afraid of what their parents might think of them if they asked those questions. My invitation to you is this: the next time you have the privilege to engage in a meaningful conversation with a young person, turn off your cell phone. Resist the urge to interrupt and judge. Stay present. Challenge them. Make them tell you why they believe what they do. You may just be very surprised by what you hear. You may even hear your own thoughts and questions in their voices. Thank you.